Hello, hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Or tonight, whatever time it is for you. I am doing fantastic. I have been excited for this chapter. Hi, Lunar. Hi, Duality. And we're gonna read. This chapter is a bit longer than the previous one, so I'm expecting maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours-ish. I'm okay, my birthday's in a few days. That's something to look forward to. Ooh, exciting! Happy early birthday. That's always fun. Very, very fun. Oh, hold on, let me check something. Give me a second. Okay, cool. Alright. Bada boom, bada boom. That's super fun. Are you doing anything special? Do you have, like, anything special for your birthday or anything? I gotta maybe adjust the music a little. I am so emotional to watch right now. Yes, you know. Hey, listen, this chapter is gonna be fun, so it's gonna be... I'm so excited for this chapter. You're gonna have a great time. You're gonna have a great time. Gonna go see the movie with the friends, but that's about it. Hey, that's still a fun time. You know, hang out with the friends. Can't imagine doing anything better on a birthday. So we wait another couple minutes, just for anybody else to roll in, who needs to. I wasn't able to make the summary until like 20 minutes ago, or like 40 minutes ago, because I forgot to this weekend. But the summary is updated to chapter 9, but I will be reading a little bit from it just so we're all on the same page, because it has been a few days. How badly do I need to emotionally prepare myself for this chapter? I think this chapter is a fun time. I think there's some it's great. I'm excited. I love this chapter. I will say I have read this chapter fully through before tonight, over the weekend twice, because I've been so excited to read it, because it makes me giggly. So I think we're gonna have a great time. Okay, I'm really quickly, now that we've hit about 9:05, I'm gonna go ahead and give a little summary, give a little refresher. So where we last left off, we were Rose, and Rose, we were from Rose's POV, talking or going over the events of what she did to help get Karkat back, because Karkat had been suddenly teleported, first to Mount Everest, for some reason, by some strange magic, and was gonna freeze to death up there. Used one of his deal questions. I don't actually know. I guess he did use one of the deal questions, but used one of the deal questions to get Solux, and Solux sent him through. Requested a favor with Slick to have Slick take care of him. Karka got trapped in Midnight City for a little bit, and so we saw Rose had to go to Roxy, who's Dave and Rose's mother, Roxy Lalonde, to figure out how to get him out. They do a bunch of spell stuff. They are all at or Roxy's house, and they do a shit ton of spelly stuff, and then with Solux having to die twice to get Karkat back, and then when he pops back, they pop back. Karkat's back with little baby snake Solux with him. Solux has turned into a snake, for quote power saving mode, due to how much magic he had to use to get them back. So yeah, so that is pretty much the summary of where we're at. This is chapter 10, titled Strange Magic, and we are going to get started. So here we go. Alright, bear with me if I'm a little bit messy with the reading at the beginning, because it's been a few days, but I should be able to just swing back into it. Alright, here we go. Dave and Rose's mother has declared that she's going off to go cook, prompting a pretty panicked set of Lalonde twins to rush after her, offering to help. You can't believe that your friends went through so much to get you back. You can't believe that Solix apparently died twice to bring you back. You shuffle over to the freestanding fireplace and lean down to look at the glowing line on the coals. Solix is a little coil of heat with glowing eyes. As you lean in, his head perks up to look at you. You died for me, you say. Solix's little sneaky body raises up a little higher from the tight coil of the rest of him, and you wonder if he wants you to pick him up. Twice, actually. You died for me twice, you go on. Solix leans further over, and so you dip your hands into the fire. As soon as you're close enough, he slithers over your fingers. His small body is dry, smooth, and hot from the fire. It doesn't burn you, but you can feel that he's really hot. He slithers over your hand, raising himself up on your palm, and stares at you with his tiny, glowing eyes. You don't want to talk down to him, so you lift him up to your face. His little body sways slightly, almost like videos of snakes being charmed that you've seen on YouTube before. I'm really grateful, you know. I couldn't have ever asked you to do something like that, but you did, and Ow! You yelp as Solix lunges forward and bites your nose. Of course, because he's only little, his fangs are tiny, so it doesn't do more than just scratch the tip of your nose. Jerking back from him, you hold your nose with your hand that is not currently holding a horrible bastard snake. Thankfully, you're not bleeding, but your nose throbs painfully under your touch. I'm grateful you saved my life and made a huge sacrifice doing it, but somehow you're still a total asshole, and I utterly hate you, you snap at him. Solix freezes and then hides his face under the coil of his body in what you refuse to believe is anything like shame. You don't think shame is an emotion that Solix is even capable of feeling. Listen, you bad-tempered, animated shoelace, do you want to go back in the fire or what? You ask him a little wapishly. Solix ducks out from under his tail and stretches his body back towards the fireplace. Because you're not a complete asshole, you gently put him back amongst the coals. Thanks for saving my life, you fucking jerk, you tell him, pointing your finger at his little snaky face. A tiny forked tongue flicks out of Solix's mouth and swipes over your fingertip. You have zero clue how to interpret that, so you just shake your head and leave. The Lalonde kitchen is as fabulous and high class as the rest of their house seems to be. It was clearly designed for show, with gleaming metal appliances, high windows, and pure copper pots dangling from overhanged racks in a way that you've only seen in movies. The classy nature of the place is undercut by you watching Dave try to stop his mother from dropping a plastic-wrapped whole hunk of ham into a copper pot. Mom, no, don't. Dave tries, but doesn't manage to stop her in time. She walks off as Dave tries to fish the plastic-covered ham out of the pot. Carcat, a word, Rose says quietly. You step close to her, watching as their mother plucks some glass spice jars from a rack. Running that spell to rescue you seems to have somewhat overtaxed my mother. She's a little less well than she usually is. If you recall, you offered to... Rose pauses as the sound of glass shattering drags both of your attentions back to her mother. Dave is frozen, reaching for a pair of tongs on the wall to presumably pull the ham out of the pot. In his absence, his mother has shattered a spice jar on the edge of a pot like an egg. She's become confused about what she's holding and did one food-related activity when she should have done another. It's heartbreaking. Anything you need, you offer her quietly. I think dinner is required. If you leave the property, you'll be able to catch an Uber into town and pick up something frozen, then we can just throw into the oven. I'm sure Solix can show you the way. Even if he can't talk yet, he can act as a compass. Besides, I'd hate for Mom to accidentally hurt him with him being so small and unable to defend himself, Rose says softly. Of course, if you think there's anything else you need, just message me. You agree as quietly as you can, and so not to attract attention. Thank you, I really do appreciate it. Rose smiles and turns her attention back to her mother again. You go back to the room you just came from and lean down into the fireplace and explain everything you just saw and heard to Solix. He slithers off the coals and towards you of his own accord, and when you hold out your hand, Solix curls around your fingers without any fuss or protest. I guess we'll go then, you say, and Solix bops his little snaky head up and down. Alright, you have rudimentary communication. You can work with that. It's not hard to find the front door to let yourself out, but as soon as you're out in the woodsy outdoors, you're unsure of where to go next. A flick of Solix's tongue across your fingers gets your attention, and you look down to see him pointing his body slightly off to the left. When you turn that way, he readjusts himself to be straight down on your finger, like a compass, just as Rose suggested. The walk is a little tough. You're not the outdoorsiest of people. You don't feel like people evolved for as long as they did and worked as hard as they did to invent buildings and cities, only to tramp about in the woods. You could make this journey in silence, but you've never been great at that. So, have you been a snake before? You ask Solux slowly and watch as he turns on your hand and gives you a look of despair and disdain that should not be possible for a snake to manage. I mean, I know you said before that you could be different versions of yourself. Does that mean that this is a version of you, or is this just some standard demon form when you're out of power? Hey, no, don't you dare, you say as Solux opens his mouth and leans towards one of your fingertips in a clear threat of biting. It's not as if I'm laughing at you or anything. I think you're a nice-looking snake, and you gotta keep your two-tone color theme, you reason, and look over the blue and red patterning up his body. Everywhere it's not patterned, it is a muted mustardy color, like a non-metallic gold shade. It's a pretty cool look, even if there's no way he could be mistaken for a regular snake looking like that. Solux directs you down a series of rocky steps and left on a forking path through the woods. It takes a few minutes, which is more than enough for more useless babble to build up behind your teeth, just begging to be released. Maybe it's kind of shitty to have this conversation with you, or at you, when you're like this, but I'm doing it anyway. I know you've been going back all the time to look after their mom. I don't think anyone was making you or bribing you to do it. I think you just did it because you're a decent person. Not that it changes my stance on how deeply irritating you are, but it does reaffirm my suspicion that you frown as you think. I was going to say a jerk with a heart of gold, but firstly, I don't even know if anatomically you actually have a physical heart most of the time in your normal form, and secondly, I've seen your blood, and it looks like everything with you is gold. Still, the metaphor stands, I think, but you're just a little more literal than you should be in this case, you tell him. Solux doesn't bite, but nor does he look at you. Instead, he's just tightly coiled himself around your fingers. As it happens, you finally make your way out to the road, so you pull your phone out. You take a look at the Uber app, but find it's not loading your location. A soft bump on your finger attracts your attention to Solux, who seems to be indicating that you have to walk a little down the road still. You do as he indicates, and sure enough, a little ways down, the app picks up. You hail a ride and sit down on a nearby fallen tree to wait. You rest your elbow on your knee and look at the little snake around your fingers. See, the fact that you can't talk right now doesn't make a lot of difference to me because I know you wouldn't give me any useful answers to what I'm going to say anyway, you tell him. Solux turns his head to look at you and flicks his tongue in the air, seeming to almost curve it in your direction. I know you're in Japan. I know you had something to do with that dig that went so badly. I saw Lutula on the news with those dead archaeologists right before they died. When I dragged you over to help me, you were covered in blood that wasn't yours. You state simply. These are all just things you know. Solux keeps looking at you. It's not as if he can say anything. If I had any common sense, that should terrify me, and I should stay away from you. But you saved my life, and you look after Dave and Rose's mom out of the goodness of your heart. I have no idea what you're doing, and even if you did tell me, or could tell me, I might not understand it because of all the things I don't remember or know. You say with a sigh. I know that much, and even if I don't understand this, I think you're a good person despite all your assholish qualities. So I guess what I'm saying is that I've got faith in you, you tell him. Right before your eyes, Solux's little snake body grows longer. Now, if he was laid out in a straight line, he'd go from your fingertips to a bit past your wrist and down your forearm a little. Solux appears just as surprised as you are, looking over his longer body with a curious flick of his tongue. You hear a car approaching, and Solux quickly winds himself around your wrist and stays still, like he's a very convincing snake-themed bracelet, and not a real snake. If anything, his unusual coloring probably helps with that disguise. You hop in and make small talk with the driver. He's got one of those universal phone charger flail things, the ones with one USB port that goes into the car and then 100 different outputs for everything you could possibly need. You technically haven't charged your phone in quite a few days, so you won't say no to free power. You're careful as you travel not to accidentally squish Solux against anything. He might be pretending not to be a real snake right now, but you're pretty sure he wouldn't appreciate you banging him on things or smushing him against your knee. The driver takes you through some honestly beautiful scenery, and about 20 minutes later drops you off at a grocery store near the edge of the main town. You think if you'd wanted to go into actual town, you'd have to travel even longer. The twins are really isolated out here, huh? Shopping alone is not a new experience for you, nor is suddenly screaming far too loud in a public place. However, you're not usually trying to wrangle a shopping cart out of the corral only to scream because a snake just slithered up your sleeve. Several nearby car alarms start going off from the force of your voice, and you've got one hand over your mouth. Not that it'll do any good now. All you can focus on is the cool, slithering body winding its way up your bare arm underneath your sweater. He reaches your shoulder, and you squeak an alarm as Soluk slides over your collarbone to reach your neck. He slips his body around the back of your neck and rests his little snake head in the collar of your sweater. "What the fuck is your problem?" you hiss at him. Soluk simply flicks his tongue at you. "As soon as you're not technically all neck, I'm going to strangle you. Just you wait," you promise him venomously. Soluk flicks his tongue at you. He's no help at all. "You suck and I hate you," you inform him, and wrench a shopping cart free. Soluk isn't big enough to wrap all the way around your throat, so you're in no danger of him strangling you, but his body does tighten around your neck as if you threatened to do that anyway. "Yeah, you don't scare me," you sneer at him, and push your cart towards the store. Through necessity, you've become passable at cooking, but you get the feeling that Rose specified things that basically cook themselves because that way her mom isn't trying to help the cooking process. They may well distract her from food cooking in the oven and then just give her some cooked food. Someone actively preparing food in the kitchen and cooking it might be harder to hide. Rose knows best, and if that's the kind of thing she asked for, that's what you'll get her. You find an array of frozen pizzas and meals, a few refrigerated things of the same, and some easy breakfast and lunch-type foods. You don't know exactly what they'll prefer or how long their mother will be needing extra care, so it's better safe than sorry. "This one or this one?" you say under your breath, holding 2 boxes of frozen food up before you. The tip of Soluk's tail on the left side of your neck twitches twice against your neck, so you know to keep that one, and open the freezer door again to replace the one you don't want. As you shut the door, you see that there's a woman staring at you. "Is that a snake around your neck? I don't think you can have snakes in the store," she says uneasily. "This isn't a snake. It's a 6'4" demon who rescued me from Mount Everest," you tell her completely honestly. The busybody woman's face scrunches up in a disapproving way as she tuts at you, stalking off muttering something like, "Well, really," under her snooty breath. "She asked," you say under your breath, and work hard to keep your amusement silent. All the same, it's probably the best that you pay and leave as soon as possible. You don't want the locals giving you shit. You head to the checkout and leave your phone filming the groceries that you've bought as you drop them into your bag of holding. As wonderful as your magic bag is, if you can't mentally recall what you put in, then you can't mentally recall that item either. By filming your shopping, you can replay it when you get back to Rose and Dave's place and take out the things without worrying that you've got a mini pizza stuck in your bag of holding for the rest of time. Getting a ride back is pretty easy, although it's hard to convince the driver that you want to be dropped off in the middle of nowhere. As far as anyone is concerned, there's no house out here at all. It's just blank road by the woods. In fact, even as you stand by the road, you can't see any sign that the house is there at all. You take Solux off your neck so he doesn't pull that trick of slithering down your sleeve again, and let him navigate you back to the house. As you walk, it's funny. If you're not paying attention, you can feel how your feet want to curve your path away from the one Solux is leading you to. The amount of magic that must be around this place to subtly keep people away is massively impressive. You wonder if even top secret government facilities can pull this off. You bet not. Dr. Lalonde was the best witch of her generation for a reason. That said, she did just help Solux get through to another dimension, so somewhat fractured mind or not, she's still brilliant. She is brilliant in the present tense. Knocking on the front door of the impressive house produces one slightly frazzled-looking Dave. "I have food and your Solux," you inform him, holding Solux out to him. "Oh, yes, my Solux. That Solux I have. None of that off-brand captor stuff. Only the real, authentic deal." Dave rambles and scoops Solux out of your hand. Solux curls around his wrist and nuzzles his face into Dave's palm. "He got bigger, too, so I think he's getting better. Also, I brought food," you tell him and step into the house. "Aw, man, that is awesome news. Thanks for the food as well. Let us know how much it was and we'll pay you back," Dave offers and shuts the door behind you. "You guys traveled across the country to get your mom and Solux to break me out of another dimension. I think this is the very least I can stretch to by a way of thank you," you snort. "You do the same for us, though," Dave points out. "Of course I would," you tell him. Dave falls silent, and the air between you two feels heavy, charged with something. You're not sure what to say, so you desperately try to pretend that you don't feel whatever it is that you are feeling. Besides, I can absolutely afford to buy some food for you guys since I've been working at the library. You trail off as a horrible feeling floods you. The library that I had shift set the last few days that I apparently passed when I was trapped in another dimension. "Oh, fuck," you whisper with mounting horror. "Shit, I didn't think to call them. I don't know if Rose did either," Dave curses quietly. You quickly scramble for the phone and call the library's office number, the one that goes to Miss Paint's office and not the one you share with Kanaya. It rings 3 times before Miss Paint picks up. Hello, Lalon Library, she greets you pleasantly. Miss Paint, it's Carcat. I can explain. I'm so sorry I missed, you say in a rush, but she talks over you. Oh, Carcat, I'm so happy to hear from you. My husband did tell me you were stuck in his plane and he was looking for you. I suppose you must have found your way out, Miss Paint says cheerily. Yes. My friends and Dr. Lalonde got me out. Spateslick told you I was in there, you ask? Dave's eyebrow raises in surprise, and you watch as Solux rolls his whole head instead of just rolling his eyes. Of course he did, sweetie. Now, normally I'd say that if you can't make it to work, you have to call, but there's really no phone communication between planes of reality like that, so you're more than excused. Will I be seeing you in work tomorrow? She asks. Can I come in tomorrow? You repeat. Dave nods and mouths, yes, you. Yes, I can. I'll be there. I'm really sorry about all this, Miss Paint. You apologize? Nonsense. I'll see you tomorrow then. Bye. Miss Paint says cheerily and hangs up. Every time I talk to my boss, I feel like the conversation goes in entirely different directions than I was expecting, you say, a little weak from shock. Well, I'm glad your job is okay. Come on, Dave says and nudges you towards the kitchen. It seems like Key and Rose have cleared up from their mother's culinary misadventure, and the place is back to gleaming spotlessness. You set your bag down on the very fancy kitchen island and pull your phone out, going up into your gallery to find the video so you can pull out what you need from your bag. That's your plan anyway, but even as your thumb hovers above the video frame, your eyes are caught on several glitched out photos on your screen. Even the previews for them aren't working right. What the shit? You say under your breath and open one of the glitched images. Your phone flickers the image, just a glitching, stuttering gray, black, and white. This was one of the photographs from the changing room in Midnight City. You're glad you listened to your instincts and wrote it out all by hand. What is that? Dave asks as you put your phone down and reach into your bag. Photos I took in Midnight City, the place I got stuck in, you explain as you pull your notebook out of your bag. You flick through and find that the painstakingly careful drawings of the spell you took down are still the same. You didn't lose that too. Oh, weird, Dave remarks. Looking over, you can see he's got your phone in hand and is looking at the image and tapping the screen. I'm not surprised that the photos didn't come out. Solux has said before that going between planes can brick tech. Not that he goes to hell ever, but I guess demons try it sometimes and they have to be careful with their electronics. The weird thing is that the date of the photograph. Look, the date's totally wrong. It's like more than 5 years ahead, Dave says, holding your phone up to you. Sure enough, the date is out, yet when he flicks forward to your video and pulls up the information for that date, the date and time are correct. Well, time passed differently there. I swear I was only gone for a few hours, but you said it was days. Makes sense their time would be a little sideways, right? Your reason? Wouldn't it be out more than that, though? The plane has to be as old as Death herself, and if she's been around since life began, you'd think... I don't know. Never mind. It's weird. Want me to play the video? Dave asks. Please, you say. Dave plays the video, and you're able to quickly unpack the food from your bag. The two of you get started heating up the food, and you'll all be eating and putting away things you won't. Your hand lingers on a packet of cubed ham. Solux wasn't super helpful with detailed question, and I don't know what magical demon snakes eat. I know real snakes eat mice and stuff, but they didn't have that at the store, obviously. But maybe he'll eat this, you suggest, offering the packet to Dave and by extension Solux, since he's around Dave's wrists. Aw, that's really sweet of you, man. He actually doesn't need to eat usually, but maybe when he's like this, he could use the extra energy. What do you think, Sol? Dave asks as he peels the packet open and holds out a chunk of the ham to Solux. Solux flicks his tongue at it for a second or two, seemingly assured as to the nature of the cubed ham as he leans in closer and noms it from Dave's finger. Here's a question I've never contemplated before. How much cubed ham is it wise to put in your magical snake best friend? Dave wonders. I can't say I've ever faced that specific problem, you tell him and pick up your phone again. More for something to do with your hands, so you're less nervous around Dave. You flick back to the glitched out pictures and sigh. What were you even trying to photograph? Dave asks and leans against the counter next to you. He casually feeds Solux a little more ham. Well, when I was down there, I saw my reflection, and there was this bright red spell inked all over my skin. It wasn't written in a language I know, but I'm pretty sure it's whatever spell or magical thing that's made me forget everything before, so I took pictures of it all, you explain. Ah, shit. And now the photos are gone, you can't find out what it is. Dave concludes. Actually, no, you smile. I thought that it might screw with the photos, so I spent time copying it down on paper in the mirror. I still have to reverse the writing and translate it from whatever language this is, but if I know the details of the spell, I'll be able to work out what did this, and maybe even undo its effects on me. Whoa, really? Is that a good idea? That seems like pretty serious magic, and we're only just starting to learn, Dave says worriedly. At his wrist, Solix bolts upright, staring at you, swaying a little like a cobra about to strike. Sure, but even if it takes me years to translate, and I work out, I finally have something to do. Look at how much there was, you say, and pull out the notebook from your bag to show him. You flick the pages open to show him your carefully copied, albeit mirrored spelling, several pages of this stuff with your notes about where the various sections were, so when you copy it all out properly in the right way, you'll know how to stick it together. Oh wow, that's a lot of... Dave starts to say, but Solix lunges forward from his wrist. He sinks his tiny fangs into the page, and without any warning, your notebook goes up in black and yellow flames, just like your Ouija board. Ah! You yelp in pain, dropping the book. Your fingers are singed already. Regular fire doesn't hurt you, but hellfire sure shit does. Oh, fuck! Dave gasps and picks the notebook up by the edge and flings it into the steel sink. You stick your burned fingers in your mouth and rush to the sink. Your poor notebook is curling up in flames, along with any chance you had at understanding the magic that's etched onto your body. What the fuck is your problem? That was my only chance to undo all of this, you demand, tears welling up in your eyes. Solix doesn't seem to be repentant. Instead, he slips from Dave's wrists into the sink and coils up on the fire, which dies down now that your notebook is nothing more than charred ashes. I'm sure he wouldn't have done it if there wasn't a good reason. Maybe the spell would have done something bad if you tried to read it the right way around or something. Dave ventures a guess, presumably trying to come up with an idea that makes Solix not a complete bastard for burning your only hope at translating the spell on you. No, I can't. I need to... Fuck! You curse and turn and walk off. You can't be near Solix right now. Or Dave, who so clearly needs to believe that Solix didn't just do something unspeakably horrible for no reason. At the very least, you're glad to get away from Dave and Solix before the inevitable tears spill over your cheeks. This is such a shit thing about you. Among all the shit things about you that exists, this is perhaps the worst one. You're always so emotional. When something like this happens, it's such a stab in the heart to you, and you feel that by your age you should really have thicker skin to sad things happening, but you just don't. You cry like some weak little baby and you hate it. Still sniffling and blindly wandering into Lalonde's massive house, you end up in a library. It's almost like being at work again. The library is huge, big glass windows filtering in dappled sunlight from the forest outside. The books look neatly organized, and your trained eye can see that they are in fact in proper order according to the system your library runs on. There are tables and chairs about, but more than that, there are comfy sofas and deep armchairs with low coffee tables scattered about. Maybe you should just kept your big mouth shut. If you hadn't told Dave about your notebook and the spell, then Solix wouldn't have known and destroyed it. If there was any chance you have of finding out about this awful spell that binds you, why'd you have to say something? Why? You stumble to the comfy-looking sofa and sit down, utter devastation filling your useless and species anonymous body. Right before your very eyes, Dave and Rose's mother appears out of thin air by the sofa. Not in the sense that she suddenly shows up, but rather she becomes visible. Somehow she had been invisible before, and that fades from her patchily until she's fully there. She doesn't seem offended by the way you jerk back in alarm. Instead, she just sits down next to you. What's the matter? She asks you curiously. Her eyes are bright pink, as unusual as both Dave and Rose, yet totally different too. Solix is an asshole, you croak out and rub your face. Blech, now your hands are all wet from tears. Can be. What'd he do? She asks. You wonder if you should say. She was so clearly mentally overstressed earlier that she couldn't see what she was doing wrong in the kitchen and had to be guided out by her kids. Yet here and now she seems fine, and it'd be a dick move to act like the woman powerful enough to drag you through a dimension wasn't intelligent enough to have a conversation with. Which doesn't mean you condescending to her or treating her as any less than a person because she's supposedly less than she used to be. I copied down a really important spell. I'm sure it's the one that made me forget everything in the event. I saw it on my skin when I was in Midnight City, but I mentioned it to Dave and Solix there, and he destroyed my notes. Now I'm never gonna know, you say with a sniff. Roxy hums thoughtfully and pulls her feet up onto the sofa, tipping her head back. Have you ever heard of the grass is always greener thing? Maybe you shouldn't remember, she says with a sigh. Fractured light from the setting sun plays over her face, disrupted by the trees outside. I can't see the grass on the other side to compare it to because I don't remember it, you point out. Well, what about the whole thing with Pandora and her box? Some things you shouldn't open. Or the fruit of the tree of knowledge. She rambles on and spins her fingers in the air. A flickering image of an apple appears for a moment and then vanishes. Depending on the retelling of that myth, Pandora was either in on it in the first place or a hapless victim that the gods used. As for setting mankind up to do whatever they want in paradise, but not touch that one thing because reasons, that's just, no, I don't stand for that shit. Any god or otherwise who sets people up to fail like that can suck my dick because it's not fair, you argue. Roxy curls up slightly, her arms tight over her middle as she cracks up in silent, shaking laughter. And what would you do then? She giggles, looking over at you. She's still laughing, albeit silently like Dave does at times. I don't know. Try to help people be better, look out for people and bring them together. Just make shit better than it was when you found it, not treat people like pawns or puppets in a little moral allegory. No one has any right to take my memories from me, you tell her firmly. Roxy's laughter fades away as she stares out a window, the light and shade playing over her face as the sun sets. And what if you did it to yourself for a reason? Took a part of your mind for something worth it? She says softly. Then past me was an idiot for not leaving me something to explain this shit show to current me. You tell her definitively and she laughs again. I guess so. She sighs for a moment or two later. She doesn't seem entirely there, but the parts of her that are still here are still sharp and interesting to talk to. You don't mind talking to her at all. But it's not just you, though. It's other people who are in the dark and lost things. I mean, me, this isn't how it should have been, but it's not fair, and you do your best, but it's unforgivable, she hisses. Her fingers are digging into her arms where they're folded. She's getting upset, and you don't really know why. You can't see she's done anything wrong, but there's a lot of things that she could be upset about, and this conversation doesn't really seem to be anything to do with you anymore. Maybe it wasn't about you for a while now. You get up on your knees on the sofa and carefully touch Roxy on the shoulder. Hey, it's okay, you whisper. It's not. Unforgivable things, and just because you're doing something to stop something worse doesn't mean you don't cause harm, she says in a rush as tears start to flow down her cheeks. Oh, no, don't cry. If you cry, I'll cry again, you warn her. She makes a choked sob, and if anything, it gets worse. Yeah, your own eyes are watering now. You're a sympathetic crier. It happens in movies too, not just with real people. Okay, no, look, if you did something, I'm sure it's something that can be forgiven, especially if you're sorry. Besides, you said about trying to prevent something worse, right? That's a good thing. You don't always get a choice between a good thing and a bad thing. Sometimes it's an array of shitty things, and you have to pick the least shitty one with the best intentions. That's completely understandable, you assure her and rub her back gently. Excuse me. Had no right to do it, she sniffs, rubbing her face. What did you do that was so bad, you ask. It's a dangerous question, but you ask anyway. Dave and Rose's mother looks up at you, eyeliner smeared over her cheeks. She looks distraught and clearly in pain over something. You don't know what. Something she did, something she thinks she's done, maybe even something someone else did that she blames herself for. Tears are running down her face and yours. I made you cry, she says softly, and wipes at your face with the back of her hand. Like a mother would, you imagine. You don't know if you ever had one of those. You don't remember. I cry a lot, you sniff. She pulls her hand back and the shine of your tears glimmers in the light streaming through the library windows. The back of her fingers where she'd brushed your face gleams. You don't have to tell me whatever it is. You barely know me, but you're smart and important, and I've never met anyone who has had a bad thing to say about you. Your kids look up to you a lot, and you made them too, so that's A+ work right there. Rose is an amazing friend and roommate, and Dave's great. Both of your kids went out of their way to rescue me, and you did all that work bringing me back. You seem like the kind of person who tries to do the right thing and does a lot of good, you tell her gently. Roxy presses her knuckles to her mouth as if she's trying to keep the words in with her fists. I broke a lot of rules, she says after a moment in a voice so quiet it's fit for the library you're in. Who cares about that? Everyone breaks rules, and sometimes you have to break rules to do the right thing. Fuck, my friends are breaking the rules by ditching class and coming here to rescue me. Following the rules only makes good things happen if the rules are good in the first place, and no one's rules are perfect all the time. If you're trying to do the right thing, that's good, and if you're sorry when something bad happens, then that's all you can ask for. Rules my ass, you snort derisively. But, she starts, okay, if it matters so much, I forgive you, you tell her, and she laughs, rubbing her hands over her face and relaxing into the chair again with a smile. You're not what I thought you'd be like, you know. Roxy sighs and looks over you. What do you think I'd be like? You ask her. Stuffy, boring, uptight about stuff, super anal about things, she answers with a shrug. Gee, I'm glad to hear Soluk speak so highly of me when I'm not here. When he has an ass again, I must remember to kick it, you growl furiously. You hate the guy so much sometimes. She's laughing now, loud and maybe a little obnoxious, but it's a damn better sight than her crying in distress. Mom? Dave's voice comes from the doorway. You look around to see him confused and somewhat concerned, but he relaxes into something closer to a polite baffled when it's apparent that his mother is just very tickled by something rather than some kind of hysterical fit. She gets to her feet and grins at her son. You think that the little mischief in her eyes is very Rose-like. Your friend is fun, she says with a smile. Oh, yeah, Carquette's the best. What are you, there's food ready in the kitchen. I bet you're hungry and all, Dave babbles. I might. His mom nods and then turns to you. Thanks for talking to me. I feel a lot better, actually. Good. I should be the one thanking you after everything, so if anything I said made you feel better, then I can be happy about that, you point out. You still massively owe her as far as you're concerned. Remember what I said about opening up that box, Pandora? She says quietly and taps the bridge of your nose with her finger. That's right where that spell stretched across your face. Did you tell her exactly where it was? You're not sure. Without another word, she walks off and leaves you and Dave alone in the library. Well, not alone. You can see Solix curled around his wrist. It's crazy how much she seems to like you. I can't believe it, Dave says quietly, looking through the door after her. Thanks, you say flatly. I didn't mean it like that, Dave says hastily, looking back at you. She doesn't like anyone at all. She cares about me, Rose, and Solix, and that's it. Sometimes if it's a bad day, she's not even okay with us, or she doesn't believe that we're us. She'll only tolerate June here supervised on a good day, and she'd never just chill in a room talking with her like she did with you. She must really see something in you, he says softly. That must be really hard on you three, you say, aiming for empathetic and not condescendingly pitying. It's not our fault, Dave shrugs. It's not an answer, but you can already tell it is hard. You also don't think that their mother is unaware of her condition or how it affects the people around her. She seemed pretty guilty back there. You don't know if she regrets the thing she did or whatever high magic thing it was that made her that made her this way. It's not your place to know, but it's not fair for her to feel so terribly about it. Everyone involved seems to have more than suffered enough. At least she looked like she felt a bit better then. Perhaps all you can hope for is that she feels well for longer, whatever that means for her. I offered Rose my notes before in class to cover you two going back here. That doesn't have to be a thing that stops. I know Solix can just go where he likes with virtually no travel time, but I don't know how long it'll take him to get back to that. He's not going to be taking much in the way of notes without a hand, you point out. There's a quiet hiss from the vicinity of Dave's wrists at your words. But I don't see any reason we can't all pool our notes for as long as we're all at school, you finish. Yeah, I mean, people hear the same thing and take different things from it all the time, so sharing notes and comparing ideas is probably smart. Dave nods. He gestures vaguely to the door, and you remember that food was a thing. That's why he came here. Guess we can do that then. You nod and walk over. It's kind of wild how that happens, actually. One person says something, and another person takes it in a different idea. I mean, words are crazy if you think about it. You have an idea in your head, and that's only yours if you put it into words, and then send it out, and I get it and translate it into an idea that's only in my head, and it might not be what you had. It's like how magic demands you be all specific or does weird shit. Dave rambles. Yeah, I guess I can see what you mean by that weird rant on language. People miscommunicate. Even in school, having different people explain the same concept can be the thing that makes you get an idea or not. Good teachers can make or break things. You agree, and walk into the kitchen. There's no one else here now, but there's still warm pizza on the trays and the burner on the oven is on, despite nothing being on it. You're contemplating turning it off when Dave holds out his arm towards it and Solix slithers off and curls on top of the burner in the flame. Yeah, sure, teachers. Dave mumbles and hands you a plate. You take a few slices onto your plate, and Dave does the same, fiddling with the crust for a moment. He inclines his head and walks off, clearly intending for you to follow. He's left Solix behind on the burner, but he seems perfectly content in the fire, and you suppose he's not really a snake and is probably fine on his own. You follow Dave as he leads you into the living room that you were in before. Again, no one is here, and now it really is just you and him. Even outside of class, it happens, though, Dave says out of nowhere. What happens, you say, not knowing what he's on about. The people misinterpreting things, Dave reminds you. I guess, you say around a bite of pizza. Dave sits down so you follow him, facing him on the other side of the sofa. Dave seems weirdly fidgety and abandons his pizza on the nearby coffee table. So, I mean, sometimes perhaps a guy might, say something in a non-academic setting, thinking he was communicating one thing, but maybe someone else thought it was a different thing. But you have no way of knowing unless you try to talk about that thing specifically, or I guess about that specific conversation, and if there was a miscommunication or not. And your meddling sister is just, getting meddly about shit she knows nothing about, Dave says incoherently. If that was an example of a thing, you could say... okay. That was an example of a thing, you could say where I have no clue where you're clue what you're saying, that congratulations, you managed it. What on earth were you trying to tell me there? You said shitloads and communicated nothing. It's a miracle, you smart in amusement. Dave goes pink. It's unfairly endearing. You're right, I guess I'm somewhat ironically doing the thing again, evading the point like some hidden assassin stalking the point from the shadows for years without ever being. Dave babbles. Dave, you sigh, cutting the rambling tirade before it starts. Dave stares down at the sofa and picks out a thread on it. Is something wrong? You ask him, lowering your pizza fully onto its plate fully. With no other option, you wipe your slightly greasy fingers on your jeans because you're not willing to get their fancy sofa all grubby with your greasy fingers. Why don't you like Justin Timberlake? Dave asks you in a rush. That is not what you were expecting him to say. What? You say, too stunned to say anything else. Why? Justin Timberlake, Dave says again. I'm not sure I have an answer to why Justin Timberlake exists. That's probably a philosophical question I'm not fucking equipped to answer. I assume you mean why I said I didn't like him as an actor, which isn't really what I said. I just think he's one of those actors who tends to portray generic male heroes in stories when you could change nearly any other actor and that out without losing much at all. He's not bad or anything, you explain. So you think he's just a limited actor? Dave asks in a rather strangled tone. Well, I think he's limited himself. This isn't something I've thought a lot about, Dave. I'm just not a big fan of him as you are, apparently. Think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He was in 500 Days of Summer, which is sort of a romance movie, or like a thinky meta romance. I'm not getting into that. Oh, he was also in 10 Things I Hate About You, which was a romance, but he's also done Inception, which was a heist movie, and that's range, not just looking good in a suit, you explain. You think he looks good in a suit? Dave blurts out, his attention laser focused on you. Hey, I don't care what anyone's sexuality is. Anyone who thinks he doesn't needs their eyes checked, you inform him sharply. You will not be taking comments or criticism on this point any time, or at this time, or indeed any time. Dave is staring. What? You say bluntly. See, this is my whole point. I say one thing and I mean something by it, and you say something back, and I don't know what you mean by it. So when I said you don't like Justin Timberlake, you seemingly meant it in some depth criticism of the man's range, which, as a side note, isn't fair because he was a musician first. So Dave starts. Are we going to get into that debate on whether that was music? Because you try to interrupt, but Dave keeps going despite you. We're going to put that aside. So I meant a thing and you meant a thing, and now you say this guy looks good in a suit, and maybe you can mean that as an objective fact, which, yeah, I appreciate suits. I like them. It looks sharp. We agree. But is this a thing where you mean like, hey, can we objectively agree on another dude looks good on it without it being all gay? Which I'm all for because blah, 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 Rose going on about toxic masculinity or whatever. Dave goes on. People should be able to say things like that without other people yelling gay, like we're 11 again, you grumble. Oh, for sure. We're totally in agreement there, Dave nods. Silence falls between you two, him staring at you and you looking right back at him. Were you getting to a point? I feel like you were making a point somewhere, you prompt him. Right, yeah, in inadequacies about language, you can say stuff without it being a gay thing, etc. Dave nods. Right, you say a little slowly. Dave picks at the threads on the sofa. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be, but is it? Dave blurts out. Is you a gay thing? Not that you're a thing. The sentiment is that also a gay thing because of you and the things you said and thought, because language doesn't make the words do that. Please kill me. Dave squeaks. He's scarlet. From the edge of his hairline right down to the neck of his shirt, he is bright red. Mentally, you replay the conversation you just had, the one where Justin Timberlake was first brought up. Oh, inadequacies of the language indeed. Did you ask me if I was into Justin Timberlake as a way of gauging if I was into men or not? You ask Dave suspiciously. Maybe, yes. Are you? Dave asks. You're an idiot, you sigh. Although you did sit through that whole conversation without getting what was going on. And this one too. I'm also an idiot. We're both idiots. I've been told that before. Dave agrees. Alright, just so we're clear, I've not thought much about where I fall in any kind of spectrum with that sort of thing, but I do like men, though it doesn't have any relevance to my point on Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a suit. It does color my opinion on him out of them, I guess, if we're being specific. I'm not straight, at least, you clarify. Cool, that's great. Yeah, Dave nods dumbly. I didn't really think we'd have a conversation like this. I'm going to assume you're only asking me this with this much intensity because you're not straight either, and your genius secret code of "do you like Justin Timberlake? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink" somehow failed. You scoff. Dave looks mildly offended at you besmirching his dumb plan. You thought I was straight? Please tell me why so I can fix that thing and never do it again. I'm very much into people, or vice versa. What was that old stupid joke about bisexuals being happy no matter what people had in their pants? Dave laughs nervously. That's a stupid joke, but I only figured that you probably were straight because it's statistically likely, you tell him. Dave pulls a face at that, as if somehow you should have known. You don't mention the fact that your key factor for you deciding that he had to be straight was because there's no way he could possibly, no way it could be possible that he'd be interested in you. Of course, now what's going to happen is that he'll be into men, just not you. Well, I'm glad I satiated your curiosity about my sexuality vis-a-vis Justin Timberlake. You know, you could have just asked Rose. I already told her about this. Although, maybe she didn't want to out me. Not that I think that she'd do that to anyone she didn't trust. Better safe than sorry, I guess. People can suck sometimes. But she knows you, so you shrug. Yes, Rose could have said instead of letting me angst about it. But Rose is Rose, Dave grumbles. Why were you angsting about my sexuality? You ask him skeptically. Dave tips his head back and sighs deeply. You stare at his neck for a moment and wistfully consider what you could do if you could. But alas, he mutters something to himself. Something about being all in, whatever that means. Can I kiss you? He asks quite plainly. Me? You yelp. Dave flinches back. That was far, far too loud. You hold your hands over your mouth in utter mortification. Dave leans over and gently takes them away. It's cool, he reassures you, even though you probably just damaged his hearing. Why would you want to kiss me? You croak. Because I like you, Dave answers. Your pulse is probably going 1,000,000 miles an hour where he's holding your wrists. He can absolutely tell how flustered you are, even if he doesn't know your exact heart rate right now. My mouth tastes like pizza, you whisper in horror. This isn't how rom-coms are supposed to go. I also like pizza, Dave tells you with an amused tilt of his mouth. There's something wrong with me that I still want to kiss you, even when you say things like that at times like this. And with you, that you want to kiss me when I tell you my mouth smells or tastes like pizza, like that's anything close to the right, you trail off. Dave leans in. He's pretty clearly nervous about this, and his hold on your wrist is ridiculously light. There's no way you could construe this as him keeping you here. If you wanted to get up and leave, you could, both from how hesitantly he's leaning into you and how he's not keeping you here. You don't want him to have to chase you for this, though. You lean in as well. It's kind of a rush, and you end up bumping your noses together more than you actually do manage kissing. It's hardly the stuff of movies. This wouldn't be in any romance you've ever watched or read. All the same, though, when you tilt your head slightly, you both actually kiss properly for the first time, and it feels so perfect you could almost believe it's your 1000th kiss with him. You fit perfectly together. His lips against yours are just right, a perfect counterpoint to yours. When the two of you come apart, your heart is fluttering in your chest, but the rest of you feels still and vast, like the smooth ocean of the night or something equally flowery and twee that even you would have rolled your eyes to read. But that's exactly how it feels, and just from one kiss, too. Wow, you whisper in awe. You do taste like pizza, Dave observes. Oh, fuck off, you hiss and shove him in the shoulder, making him laugh as he falls back onto the sofa with a grin. You watch as he grabs his own pizza and takes a very pleased-looking bite at it. You can't believe that he would kiss you, that he would be interested enough to do it, interested in you. I had no idea, you murmur, touching your lips in wonder. As far as you've known, you've never been kissed before, and Dave was your first. How incredible is that? That you tasted like pizza? Dave teases. Why on earth do I like you? You wonder aloud in despair. Ah, so you do like me back, Dave beams. I kissed you, didn't I? You counter. Surely that's pretty obvious by now. I did invite you back to mine for a movie because I'd hoped you'd like me, but I failed so badly at working out if you did that I had to go hide in my room for a moment and make up some bullshit about showing you a rock. I had to get out of that. I had to get out of that, yeah. Dave sighs. Wait, that was supposed to be a date? You say in mounting horror. You had no idea. Yeah, an entirely deniable, no, it's for sure a friends thing kind of way if it'd gone bad. You are Rose's roommate after all, and if I had made things awkward with you, she'd remove my liver or something, Dave says. That does seem like something she'd do, you agree. She totally would. When she wants to know something, Rose has that look. I'm sure you know the one. It's all intense, like she's seeing into your soul, and there's nothing you can do to get away. I'm sure it's some kind of illegal magic. I should report her to the magic cops or something. Dave nods. I'm sure you wouldn't do that. Oh, I'm sure you wouldn't do that. Both you and Dave jump and look up at the stairs to see Rose coming down. She was totally silent before, and you wonder just how much she heard. See, it's spooky shit like that. My sympathies for you having to live with her now. I have felt your pain. Dave stage whispers, enough so that Rose can absolutely hear him. Karkat is a wonderful roommate and a complete delight, unlike you. Speaking of our resident situation at the university, we need to go back there. I have a teleportation booked. It seems there's quite a rush of people coming to and from New York at the moment, so slots were unusually full, and this was the only one I could secure. I have already bid Mother goodbye, so we just need to get Solux and leave. June and Jade are meeting us in the minivan with Mr. Egbert, who has kindly agreed to give us a ride to the port. Rose informs you both. When do we need to go? Dave asks. Rose checks her watch and grimaces. About 15 minutes ago, she admits. I'll grab Solux. I can take him out of the fire, you offer, and jump over the back of the sofa as Dave hastily starts grabbing other things. Did you get everything from the basement? Dave asks Rose as you hurry to the kitchen. You don't catch the rest of the conversation about the arrangements as you leave. You're focused on hurrying to the stove and turning off the burner. Solux's tiny eyes blink at you in unsettling reptilian way as you scoop him up. His body is super hot, but you're fine to hold him. Okay, just as a little side, fucking, I love this. The kiss. Oh my god, the kiss. Oh, the build up with the Justin Timberlake conversation to the kiss. Oh, I love these two idiots so much. I literally love them so much. Oh my god. That's what I was so excited for. That's the one I was so excited for. I was fucking thinking about it. I reread it a bajillion times. Oh my god. They're so stupid. They're so stupid together. They make me so stupid. Anyway, okay. Nice time for a drink. Now that I'm kind of distracted. They make me so stupid for each other. Oh my god. Okay, back to it. They're so dumb. I did not think they would figure it out by chapter 10 affection. Exactly. It's so funny because I remember when the first time I read this, when Dave asks, "Can I kiss you?" and it's like this chapter, I was like, "Holy fuck! We have 35 chapters to go. Like, this is so great. This is so early." I was like, wow, this. Hey, Unda gives us like enough of it's not even a slow burn. Cause if it's what we're maybe like 100k words. What would you qualify as a slow burn? I guess it's more of like a percentage of like how long the fic takes. What percentage of the fic is them like pining and then eventually getting together? Because I think we're like we're over like I want to say we're like over 10 or 100k words into the story, maybe at this point. And I would consider like 100k words to be a slow burn, but it's also like only like 1/4, not even 1/4 of the fic. So does that count? I don't think so. It's kind of a question, a thing to wonder. I've been thinking a lot about slow burn. I was on. This is another tangent. I was looking for fic recs, and I saw somebody mark like an 8k word fic as a slow burn, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, it was like a one shot, and it was like a slow burn, and I was like, a one shot is not a slow. Am I crazy? A one shot is not a slow burn. Like, A slow burn is like grueling. A slow burn is like at least 50k words. At least 50k words. I think a slow burn really you shouldn't qualify it as a slow burn until you're 100k, but I also know some writers just don't write as much. But qualifying a one shot as a slow burn is not, I don't know. Anyways, okay. Back to reading. We have to go now. Rose booked a teleport and we're in a rush. You explain and hurry back. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. I mean, if it's a long one shot, it can be a slow burn. I guess it more depends on like word count. One shot is not a slow burn. YWDMP is a slow burn. A one shot, everything gets resolved in one shot. Yeah. Like, I think that YWDMP is like my peak slow burn. Because what they don't, I don't actually want to say too much, but like, it's not till like mid-fic or even like mid, like this 2/3 in. Because I've seen one shot. Yeah. Like if the one shot is fucking long, then it's like, it's really long. I'm more talking like word count. If your word count is not above like 50k words, I don't think it should be considered a one shot or not a one shot, a slow burn. Yeah. The tag is also like, end game DSK, and so it's gonna happen eventually, and also it's an undefix, so it obviously happens eventually, but it's like, like painful. You're like, oh my god, I need, it's taking its sweet fucking time. So YWDMP is the most slow burny of Unda's fics, because like in Dave's Broken Diamond Club, like Solix and Dave get together by like chapter 3, right? Like they're like Moirails by like chapter 3 or 4, so that happens pretty early. Alternate Universe, this happens by chapter 10. And then MC Escher, it's like they're together by what, chapter 6, 7? Even like they're kind of pining. No, Christmas Miracle is kind of technically when that happens, and I think is Christmas Miracle like 12? What chapter is the Christmas Miracle chapter? 13? It might be later. It might be 17. Anyways. Okay, actually returning to the fic now. Okay. Why did you even bring that abomination? Rose demands. What? Solix? You say in faux seriousness. You know she didn't mean him because she's looking angrily at Dave, but you're not going to miss an opportunity to insult Solix, are you? No, she's dissing my very useful and very helpful skateboard. We can all get on it, and it'll take us right to where Mr. Egbert is meeting us in no time at all. It's magic. Dave beams, holding up a garish and glitchily patterned skateboard. You swear you've seen it in his room before, locked up in a cage. The unreal air is a unholy, demonic artifact that even Mother distrusts, Rose starts. And it's never hurt me, it's just freaky. Look, if we don't get there ASAP, we miss our teleport and more classes. It won't hurt you, Dave assures her. Rose glares at him. Solux, do you think we should use it? Dave asks, holding up the skateboard to you and Solux. Solux rears up in your hands and nods his little head. What about you, Carcat? I'll admit it's a little freaky, but it'll get us to where we need to go super quickly, Dave asks. Well, I don't want to miss the teleport. I'm sure that'd be expensive. So if you say it's safe, I'm willing to go. But will we all get on there? You ask. The board is reasonably big, but it's going to be a tight squeeze at the very least. We'll fit. You're outvoted, Rose. Come on, to the roof, Dave exclaims. No, Rose groans, but Dave grabs her by the wrist and runs upstairs. You have no choice but to follow. There's a few flight of stairs to the Lalonde attic, and there appears to be a skateboard slope up by a large window, one which Dave is pulling open and setting a timer on. There's a little device with a countdown near it, so you assume the window shuts after that. Dave must use this a lot. But from your point of view, all that's going to happen is you're going to sail out of the window on the skateboard and crash into the floor. You follow Rose up to the top of the ramp where she's obviously quite displeased, but going along with it. So, is it going to fly? Is that it? You ask. It's the only conclusion you can see from this. No. Better, Dave says, and hurries up after you. No, worse, Rose contradicts him. Shut up, Dave retorts. He sets the board right on the edge of the ramp and stands one-footed on the front, with his other foot on the lip of the ramp. With a sigh, Rose gets on behind him, wrapping her arms around his middle. Uncertainly, you get behind her and hold on to her side as awkwardly as it probably humanly is possible. Dave looks you over. You got Solix? He asks. You raise your arm and show where the snake is currently tight around your wrist. He flicks a tongue out at Dave, who nods. All right, to the Egbert minivan. He kicks off the ramp, throwing his weight forward so the skateboard pitches down it. You're pretty sure the thing handles like a cow with this many people on it, but it doesn't stop picking up speed as you hurtle towards the open window. You're waiting, heart in throat, for something like flight to happen. But you don't fly. The four of you speed out of the open window and clip the edge of the roof. Beneath your feet, the board stutters in space. It flails like a video game asset stuck in the wrong place. You're violently thrashed about like you're in the jaws of some awful predator. The world lurches, and finally the roof seems to reject you, and you're catapulted away with horrifying speed. Air whips past you hard and fast, and you're sure you must be hurting Rose with how tight you're holding her. You're hurtling through the air sideways, and down below you, trees are just rushing past. You're dipping lower and lower, though, and both the trees and rocks rise up to meet you. There's not even time for you to scream before you hit a tree and all go flying. A branch pierces your gut, or it tries to at least. Your physical body seems to stretch and warp as you fall and smack into branches. You're sure your bones break and bend in ways that nothing should, but though you can feel none of it. You can feel that none of it registers as pain. You crash into the floor and inexplicably slide across the ground, pulled by some invisible force. As your body flows over a large rock, you see that one of your arms bends about in 4 places, and the end of Solux's tail stretches out about 3 feet long, but only as wide as a sheet of paper. Your body is horrifically stretched and warped, and there's nothing you can do to move yourself at all. You're just hauled along the floor until suddenly it becomes road surface. For a moment, you stay there, immobile horror, and then without warning, you're back on the board again, holding on to Rose. You're all on the edge of the road, and you can see a minivan approaching. Nothing hurts, and you're in control of your body once more. I hate that thing. Rose shudders and leaps off of it. I think I'm going to throw up. You whisper in horror and stagger back. Aw, it's not that bad. It's like applying video game collision glitch physics to real life. You get here stupidly fast, nothing hurts. It's funny. Dave insists and steps off the board too. It starts to slowly float up into the air until he snatches it out at about shoulder height and stuffs it into his bag. I am never getting on that thing again, you say with a shudder. Running your hand over your arm, you find it only bends in the places that it should, but you are very keen to never repeat that experience. The sensible gray minivan slows at a stop ahead on the road of you. A gentleman in a fedora gets out and looks at all of you in surprise. Hey, Mr. E, thanks for the ride to the port. Dave greets him cheerfully. Through the windscreen, you can see Jade wildly waving. You knew this was going to suck, didn't you? You accuse Solux, holding your wrist up to your face so you can glare at him. Solux flicks his tongue at you. I have no idea what that means, but my response is still the same. Fuck you, you hiss at him. He flicks his tongue out again. It's no trouble. Where's Solux, and why does this young man... this is June's dad, not June. It's no trouble. Where's Solux, and why does this young man have a snake?'s dad asks with a slight frown. That's Carcat, Dad. Solux is a snake right now. I did tell you, you hear June say. The open driver's side door aiding your hearing. Right, I thought you were being... Well, no matter. I'm afraid I can't have a loose snake in my vehicle. If you could just hand him over to me, young man, and hop in the car, I'm sure I can find something in the trunk to put him in for his own safety, and then I can hand him back to you, or to one of you. Hop in, June's dad says, holding his hand out to Solux, who unwinds from your wrist of his own accord and reaches out to June's dad's hand. Well, if Solux doesn't mind, then you don't either. Rose and Dave are already getting into the minivan, so you follow after them. You shut the door as you slide into your seat, and Mr. Egbert walks past it. It's only when you go to put your seatbelt on that you realize you accidentally shut the seatbelt in the door. You're a genius, clearly. Carefully, you crack the door open, not wanting the thing to suddenly spool back and hit you. You pause when you realize Mr. Egbert is talking to Solux. Looked for you everywhere. Still, it was lost in the chaos, he says. What is he talking about? Though I suppose you have your own problems at the present, unless this is somehow related? No? Oh, well, that's some relief, Mr. Egbert sighs. He opens the trunk of the minivan and makes a show of running around in it one-handed and then returns to the front. Carefully, you shut your door so he doesn't know you were listening. Sorry about that. I couldn't find anything for him. Here you go, Dave. Just promise you'll hold on to him carefully, all right? He says, reaching back and offering Solux to Dave. I will. Dave nods and takes him back. The minivan starts up and you stare at Solux. It's no surprise that he's gotten into some shady shit, but what does June's dad have anything to do with it? Was their mom really cool with you this whole time? June asks, turning around in her seat to look at you as her dad starts up the minivan. It was so weird, dude. Dave says from beside you, sorry. She doesn't mean anything by it, really, Rose says, patting Jade's hand. They're sat in the row behind you. I'm happy for you and all, but that sucks. I've always been good around her place, and she's always been touchy about me and now Jade too, June says with a frown. It's not just you two, it's everyone. I don't know why she decided that she liked Karkat that much. Not that I'm complaining. It's not as if there's any reason behind it, Rose says. Thanks, you say slowly. Good to know it's not anything redeeming about you as a person that makes her like you. Still, June pouts. This is really seeming to bother her. You don't think that she wants Dave and Rose's mom to dislike you, but it's more that she's bitter that it's you and not her. Oh my, look at the clouds. We weren't forecast rain, Mr. Egbert says, peering through the window shield. June turns back around in her seat and slides down a little sulkily. Hey, is it just me or is he bigger? Dave asks, nudging you with his elbow. There's a little space between you and him in the minivan as his sister and Jade are in the row behind you. More than enough space for Dave to hold out a handful of bicolored snake to you. You look at him, but it's hard to tell with him wrapped up like that. He might be bigger. I'm not sure, you say, watching him coil over Dave's spread-out fingers. Your eyes widen as you catch sight of something on him, a pattern on a scale that you hadn't seen before. Wait, what's that? Is he hurt? You ask, pointing at his underbelly. Wordly, Dave turns his hand a little and moves his finger until the mark is clear. It looks like a capital I joined up with another one, the Roman numeral for 2, in bright red. Oh, no, he's fine. Dave sighs in relief and runs his thumb over the mark. Solix slithers down his hand and wraps himself tightly around Dave's wrist. What is that? You ask. It's just a mark. I think it's a demon thing. He has it in his normal form, too. Right here, Dave explains and gestures to his rib area with his free hand. Your mind reels back to that glowing mark on your chest when you were in Midnight City, that sideways 69 on your chest. Is there some sort of number thing going on that you don't know about? But Solix says that there were no half-demons, and surely you couldn't be a full demon without knowing it. What's going on? You can hardly ask Solix right now. He can't talk. Even if he could, he may well not be able to give you a straight answer. And as much as he annoys you, even you won't stoop to demanding a deal answer out of him, because that'd probably make a poor snake demon spell it out with his body, and that also might hurt. There's also no time to talk to Dave about that kiss, because you're not as alone as you could possibly be, and even you have more self-respect than to message the guy. So, do you like me then? In a minivan with a bunch of other people. Not a lot more, but at least a little bit. When Mr. Egbert drops you all off at the port with a fatherly wave, it occurs to you that you have no idea how you're actually getting back. Wait, Rose, did you book me a ticket too? How much do I owe you? Or do I need to buy this one at the same slot? Or you start, but Rose shakes her head. I've already bought your ticket, and don't you dare try to pay me back. Now, come on, she says, and sweeps into the port before you can protest further. But, you splutter. Not an argument you'll win, man. She has that face on, Dave tells you and follows after her sister. Or his sister. Oh my god. Misgendering. I'm sorry. The second time I've done that with Dave. And she always looks like that. June cackles and walks along with Dave. You share a glance with Jade, hoping for some acknowledgement that the people you've mutually decided to pick as friends are bonkers, but she doesn't seem as despairing in the least. Perhaps you're on your own here. Jade pulls you into the port, and the pair of you catch up to your group. It seems that Rose is taking you to a rather more exclusive part of the port than the standard area you were in at George's port. The chairs in the waiting area are swish and exclusive, and when you're called into a room, there's a casual acknowledgement of your varied species, including a demonic snake and Dave's accursed skateboard. All of this is noted by a polished-looking attendant, and between her and her assistant, they put together a far more complex teleportation circle. Before you know it, you're back in Salem, heading to your room that has stuff missing. Rose, someone stole my things, you shout, and rush into the main room, startling Rose, who's at her doorway. Yes, that would be me. I have them in my bag. I needed things of yours to help Mother locate you more easily. I picked things that you seem to have a lot of value, or that you seem to value a lot. This book included, though I must say it doesn't seem much like the rest of your reading material, Rose says, rummaging in her bag and pulling her things out. I guess so. I don't know why I liked it. It just sticks with me, you admit as she hands them to you. Interesting. Well, good night, Karkat. Sorry for the scare just then. Rose apologizes and slips into her room. At least you haven't been robbed. That really would have topped off this whole ordeal, wouldn't it? You throw things onto your bed, momentarily wincing when your laptop hits your mattress because you really shouldn't throw expensive tech that you can't afford to replace. After that, you have a shower and are momentarily freaked out because the 69 mark that was on your chest in Midnight City is still there. You rub at the damn thing, but it won't go away. It's not as if your skin feels any different or anything, but it's there and it wasn't there before. Or perhaps it was, but you just couldn't see it until now. It's not as if that spell is visible to you, so why is it there? Perhaps it's just visible to you, but you're not going to rush into Rose's room and demand to know if she can see it. When you get out of the shower, you stare at your face for a while in the mirror, but there's no spell there. You keep feeling as if it might appear out of the corner of your eye if you just look away and look back fast enough, but that doesn't happen. Exhausted, you return to your room and sensibly put your laptop away to charge on your desk, and your book back in its place. You remove your tarot deck and the sheet that came with it, and put that on the desk when you pause. You have a lot of questions about things, and in your hand you have a somewhat vague and open to interpretation method of getting answers. Thankfully, or thoughtfully, you have a look at the sheet and wonder what other useful tarot readings you could have learned if you'd stayed in class. Thankfully, that's what Google is for, so you settle down and look up tarot spreads. It turns out there's about 11 bajillion of them, and most of them look complicated as fuck. However, it is possible for you to use well-known 3-card spreads for other questions, much as you did back in Midnight City. Your eyes catch on the romance one, 3 cards representing you, your partner, and your relationship. It's trite and sappy as fuck, but you are who you are. You're not proud to admit yourself, you're not too proud to admit that to yourself. You'd rather think about Dave and the mysterious mark on your chest, or what Mr. Egbert was talking about, how you ended up on Everest, what Solix was doing, any of it. Dave is far more of a pleasant topic. You shuffle and think about love. You deal the cards. 1, 2, 3. This first card represents you in your relationship with Dave, but as you pick it up, you see that you somehow put 2 cards at once. Well, shit. You're going with them in the position that you laid them out and ignore that one. Anyway, this card is you. You turn it over and see it's the Knight of Cups. That sure is a dude on a horse with a cup. Maybe there will be a time when you know the meanings of this off the top of your head, but you don't know right now. You consult your sheet and see this card. The correct way up means the following, or means following the heart, an idealist, a romantic. That's pretty on the money for you. Alright, tarot being inexplicably a valid source of information. You set the card on the table a little down from your card that you mistakenly dealt and go for the second one. This is about Dave. As you pick up the second card, you can see you've yet again dealt another double set of cards. In disbelief, you nudge your third card down and see another one below that too. What the fuck? You suppose this is no less weird than Rose's cards going blank, but you have no idea what it means. Damn it, you'll finish this reading before you investigate that weirdness. Okay, second card, Dave. Oh, another knight card. Knight of Swords. Again, that sure is a guy on a horse with a sword. You squint at the card and feel a sense of unfairness. His horse gets wings. That's not fair. Your horse doesn't have wings. Stupid lucky Dave. Fine. What does it mean aside from his superior horse? Your sheet informs you that it's action, impulsiveness, defending beliefs. You suppose you could say that Mr. Curse-Skateboard is a little impulsive, and he certainly had Solix's back with the whole demon-phobic professor, so he stands up for things. Yeah, okay. You can stand for Dave just fine. Or that can stand for Dave just fine. So the third and final card of this one, what about your relationship? You turn the card over, holding your breath. Wheel of Fortune. Consulting your sheet, you find that it means change, cycles, and inevitable fate. Being in a relationship is a change for you, if you are indeed currently in one. You two didn't really get a chance to talk about it, but you probably are, right? Either way, it's certainly different than what you're used to, and the idea that it's somehow fate appeals to your romantic side. Is that what this card means? You can certainly see your reading making sense, but you got the idea that you're suffering from that thing where when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Maybe there's another reading of this that hasn't occurred to you. You're not sure how you feel about that, and with little else to do, you take a photograph of this reading and move Dave's cards out of the way. Now, what are you going to do about the extra ones you dealt? Getting rid of them seems stupid, and maybe they're not answering the same question you just asked. Maybe they're just leaping into opportunity to tell you something. First card, Judgment, but it's inverted. You had this before. It was about lack of self-awareness. There's an irritating reoccurring theme. Yes, you have memory loss. Yes, you know this. Second card is Two of Swords. you've had that before as well. This was that card about sacrifice, but it meant Solux and how he literally killed himself with 2 swords to get you out of Midnight City. An actual sacrifice. Is this card supposed to be Solux? The information your sheet provides you on each card isn't much, but you can still Google a more in-depth meaning. It seems to be about difficult choices, more explicitly mutually exclusive choices. The woman on the card is standing in place, stuck in a stalemate. It says that the moon depicted on this card can signify illusions and deceptions that cause making a choice to be difficult. You stare down at this card, almost seeing through it with how your eyes start to unfocus. Assuming that this card does represent Solux, then does that mean this represents his situation? Is he stuck in some situation where he can't move? You suppose he's stuck on Earth and unable to return to Hell like all demons. His allegiance to Dave seems particularly unusual to demons, as you've seen no sign that Dave has or ever would force Solux to obey him. You don't see Dave as someone that would enslave a person the way you've heard of people trying to do with the demons. No, when Solux does what Dave asks, he seems to do the same way that you do things your friend would ask of you. You do them because you like them and trust them. The moon on the card shines at you, and you wonder about that mention of illusions. The spell over your memory is kind of a spell like that. You not being able to see it is an illusion, and the mark on your chest suddenly appearing, or perhaps suddenly not being hidden, covers that. You don't want to know your past. Something the card representing you shows clear enough, and Solix can't tell you about it no matter how much he plainly wants to. That seems like an impossible stalemate. Well, wait. That means that first card does represent you, and this is him. This is a reading about the 2 of you, so what's the third card? With your reading on Dave, it was your relationship, but does that mean this is the case with Solux too? Uneasily, you turn the last card. 5 of Wands. When you read the meaning, you can't help but laugh. Conflict, competition, arguments, aggression, tension, rivals, and clashes of ego. Oh, hello, perfectly accurate description of your relationship with Solux. As you look over the card, you get the same feeling that you do about Solux. Yes, there's a clash there and tension, but even though you often think that you hate him, you don't really. Sure, he's infuriating, secretive, frustrating, irritating on purpose, and you could go on, but when you needed him, he was there. He's never tried to really hurt you, and he saved your life, risking a lot and paying a big price to do it. So, yeah, Solux. It's weird that this reading is exactly your relationship with him, and the other is exactly you and Dave. But your relationship with Dave is romantic, and yours with Solux is... Platonic isn't the word. You have a platonic relationship with Rose. You have platonic feelings for her and for the rest of your friends. What you first feel for Solux isn't that. But it's not Dave. With Dave, it's romantic. With the others, it's platonic, but it feels like there's another word you're missing. It's right on the tip of your tongue, but it eludes you somehow. God, Solux isn't even here, and he's frustrating the shit out of you. You really hate the guy sometimes. Yay, chapter! Oh, what a delightful chapter. What a delightful chapter. Hee-ho, I know the word. Oh, Carcat. He really hates the guy. Platonic isn't the word. Oh, what a lovely chapter. This is such a great chapter. I fucking adored this chapter. Oh, we got the Roxy and Carcat thing. I have no clue what quadrants are. I guess the fic will I'm not going to spoil much, but it'll get discussed in the fic. And because I could explain it all now, but it'll get discussed in the fic. So, and it'll be explained. It'll be properly explained. So don't worry. Don't worry. We'll get there. But yeah, delightful chapter. Delightful chapter. We got Roxy. I really liked even like Roxy and Carcat's conversation from up here. Like, I made you cry. Like, oh, I love this little moment between them. And we get kind of some mysterious questions. You know what I mean? Like, they're not questions, but like little things that Roxy says that it's like, interesting. What does that mean? Okay. And then we had the Dave and Karkat. Oh, the kiss. And then we got the little bit of Solux and Karkat with the tarot thing. Oh my god, just delightful chapter. Delightful chapter. And we've only got more fun things ahead. So this was chapter 10. We are approaching being 1/4 of the way done. What will be 1/4? I guess technically after we finish chapter 11, we'll be like about 1/4. But yeah, so delightful chapter. Thank you guys all for joining me tonight for tonight's stream. We still knocked that out in only an hour and a half, which is pretty good. Or less than an hour and a half. So what, next chapter is, even higher word count than last one. So tomorrow, it'll probably be about an hour, 30 minutes or so. Maybe an hour, a little bit over an hour and a half. But yeah, very delightful chapter. Join us tomorrow for another fantastic chapter. Tomorrow at 9 p.m. EST. See if that still works for you. With that, I'm going to end stream. And bada bing, bada boom. Thanks for hanging out for story time. I hope you all have a very, very lovely rest of your day, evening, night, wherever you are. And I'll talk to you all later. Good night, good night. Bye. I'm waiting. Bye-bye.